You are listening to the Eskimo Empire Podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Empire. It's the Eskimo Empire Podcast.
Riley's in the shotgun, looking downfield, and then throws. It is up in the air to the goal line. Bounces. What a catch! What a catch by Duke Williams! Touchdown, Eskimos! Bryant Mitchell! It's going to be intercepted. Arjun Colhoun.
Mike appears to be a CFL encyclopedia.
Welcome back to the Turf District. As always, we are brought to you by our title sponsor, United Construction Company. Check out all the great builds they do at unitedconstruction.ca or on Twitter at UCC_EDM. And of course, you can find all of our links and social media at eskempire.ca. I'm Andrew, and joining me in the Turf District tonight is the birthday boy himself, Superfan Mike.
So old.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's all right.
You're doing very well, though.
Exactly.
Yes.
Back in my day,
that's how it should be. Yes.
14 men on the field.
What? Oh, my. Well, also, as a surprise co-host guest this evening, it is the one and only Ryan Ballantyne.
I'm not quite the birthday stripper Mike wants, but I'm the birthday stripper he deserves.
So true, and yet I don't know. Did I call you wrong? Am I supposed to call you Big Brother Canada Ryan now? Or
no, Podcaster Ryan's still appropriate for this kind of thing. Because
okay.
this is. I mean, I have left the Twitter handle behind.
Yes.
I am no longer. I'm available at Podcaster Ryan. I just don't check it.
Right.
And anytime I'm like, why are there 40 notifications on this account? It's just, did you see what Andrew tweeted? And I'm like, why are you sending me this? Why is this a notification on my account anymore? So, I mean, yeah, the BB Can Ryan is where you're going to find me online.
Right.
But I've always been Podcaster Ryan for this audience, and I'm fine with that.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm glad you could join in, man.
I'm glad to be here, man.
Now,
when I saw you guys were recording tonight, I got super excited and texted you right away.
Now, here's the funny thing, and you probably didn't know. I don't know if you know this either, but
I didn't.
This is episode 150.
Oh,
so it's actually a big episode.
It is.
And I was actually kind of shocked as I thought about that, because do you remember back to that first episode?
Yeah, sure do.
Welcome to the Empire, Eskimo fans. My name is Andrew, and I am the host of the Eskimo Empire podcast. We are going to be going through the season, talking about the Eskimos. We're going to talk about the games. We're going to talk about the players. We're going to talk about the coaches. Likely, we are going to talk about the fans and what's going on around the stadium. That was pretty painful. Andrew was really out of his element.
And then in episode 10, let's throw to the clip.
That's right.
See, here's the thing. It's just a clip show. It's a clip show. That's what I'm here for. I came in to do like the countdown show for Comedy Bang Bang with Paul F. Tompkins.
See,
I'm only here to count down the top 10 moments in Esk Empire history.
Perfect.
And I think I've got to be at least 6 of the top 10. Right?
Yeah.
You got probably 2 or 3 anyway. Yeah.
We had former guests, but instead...
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
BB Can Ryan.
So, yeah, here we thought Kayla was going to be here, and then nope. Okay. But I do want to just, as I went back and looked, well, we got to thank a bunch of people for getting to 150. I mean, when I go back and think about all the co-hosts like Doug and Josh and UT, of course, and Uncle BD, who stepped in as co-host a couple of times. Kenny Stafford, of course, who's a great co-host.
Yes.
Probably still one of my favorite episodes was
Yes.
sitting and talking with Kenny.
Yeah, especially about his dad.
Exactly. And it was just an amazing conversation, and I love having him here. So that was amazing. I guess we have to thank the Eskimos and the CFL for their support of us too, because they've done a bunch to help us. So, and then of course all the great fans that we've had, the players that we've had, the alumni, podcasters that we've all had sitting in the Turf District here. It's just amazing to think that we got through 150 and people still want to listen to
Yeah.
the voices. So,
I certainly hope so, anyway.
so yeah. I mean, now, I know that's pretty peanuts in comparison to the Horseman's number, but, I mean, that was a big number for us, for sure.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, we're over 300 some.
Yeah.
We never
You have
started
to be,
numbering them. We never started numbering them one at a time.
Right.
But on average, we do, give or take. Yeah, we're around 300.
Yeah, it's
gotta be.
Because we do a lot throughout the course of the year. We've slowed down this off season, but we normally are good for one off season show. We've got a show in the can already.
Okay.
With the new defensive coordinator Brent Monson.
Nice.
But I haven't had a chance to sit down and edit that because I've rarely been in Calgary since we recorded. So. I expect that show will come out this weekend, but we're trying to keep up with everything going in the off season, and we'll be having somebody from the Grey Cup committee coming on to talk about the show here in the next little while, and kind of talk about everything that's going to be happening at Grey Cup, including the first ever Grey Cup rodeo. That's going to be happening this year in Calgary. So we've got a lot of stuff on the go, and yeah, like I said, I think we're over 300 episodes total. We're entering now this will be season 11, if my math is right.
Wow.
So yeah, we started in 2008, and we've been the podcast of record for the entire Huffnagel era.
Wow.
And what an era it has been.
It has been very.
So
good
I don't
for
take
you.
credit for the team's success, but
Let history decide
I might
that.
as well.
Yeah.
Well,
because since
When Bo
we
comes
started
to your
doing a
house.
podcast,
Yeah.
the Stampeders have been very successful, and we're pretty happy about it.
Great. So I'm excited for when that kind of turns around. We still have to listen to the podcast, see how you guys do.
Yeah.
It'll be neat. Yeah. It's harder than you think, let me tell you.
We've lost like a game or two here or there. Those are pretty rough shows.
Yeah.
Hasn't been 18-0 the whole time?
No. Despite my consistent predictions.
Yes.
And I made that prediction right in front of Brent Monson this year. And he
Excellent.
said, we'll do our best.
Okay, good. It's good to have that in there.
No pressure.
Yeah.
No,
all right.
not
Okay.
at all.
Perfect. Okay, I have one last thank you, and then we'll get forward, and that is to all of our sponsors. UCC, of course, who's been a major title sponsor. Confections Fresh Baked Treats, which I obviously can't say because the whiskey
You've had
cupcakes
too
are really
many
good.
confections.
Yeah.
Fresh
there's-
baked treats.
There's not too many.
Good. No, there's no such
Just
thing as too
enough.
many. But Janelle has been a big support. And then, of course, we've got our fans that are sponsoring, too, with Joe and Linda and Bill and all the people who were on Patreon before.
Yep.
So we do definitely appreciate that. So thank you again for everyone who has listened, and I hope you enjoy 150. So let's get into our Esks news a little bit. I know this will be tough on you, Ryan, but I'm sure you'll have something to say because we're going to talk about Fred Stamps and him signing the one-day contract to retire as an Eskimo. And then, of course, the Esks are going to do, they're going to kind of a commemoration ceremony at the home opener on June the 14th. They had tickets going at $22.22 in the lower bowl. And then they're going to have an autograph session pregame, all of these things. I think it's great. I mean, Fred, it was an amazing Eskimo, and he was an amazing player. And I'm sure, Ryan, you not your favorite player, but you have to respect the fact of how he played.
Well, I mean, Mike and I were just talking about this just before we turned on the mic, that if you're playing for a team and your rival's fan base hates you with every fiber of their being,
Yep.
that's great.
You're a good
for
player.
you because you're a fantastic player.
Yeah.
Because nobody cares to hate the seventh O lineman. Nobody
true.
does.
That's
Nobody
true,
does.
too.
And so the reason I hate Fred Stamps is because he always had the right name on the back of his jersey and never the right name on the front of it.
Fair.
Well, eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Yeah.
You know, he played far more time for you than he did for us.
Yes.
But it was just, Fred Stamps was a phenomenal football player, well deserving of all the honors he will receive.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's nice that he could come out and encourage the people of Edmonton to return to the stadium for, you know, what is technically a football team and you know, and having a number low enough that they could put on a promotion like that, because I'm pretty sure nobody's buying $89.89 tickets to come and watch what will be a very tough season for the city of Edmonton.
Okay, all right. Do you really... hang on a second. Hold that thought. Superfan, your favorite Freddie memory first before I get into this?
Oh, I think there was that game against Calgary where he came back and had the last play, getting that touchdown in the end zone.
Yes.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
The Ricky Ray Rainbow.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that back corner fade route was murder over and over and over again.
And you knew
Fred
it was coming.
Stamps brought in a bunch of them. And yeah, you're right. You knew it was coming. You knew it was going to happen. Everybody in the stadium knew that the game was going to be won or lost on that throw. And Ricky DeStamps was a success more often than not.
Yeah, it was right where it wanted to be. So that's very good. All right, now I'm going to get back to your point here for a minute.
What?
And I do want to let everyone know we are going to get to
Playoffs?
Singor Mobley in a moment. We have a fantastic interview with him. But do you really think that are you just saying it because you're being heel Ryan, or are you saying honestly? Do you believe that the Eskimos are going to have a horrible season this year?
I think you're worse than you were when you ended the season last year as a team.
Tell me why.
Because I think you had the second best quarterback in the CFL on your roster, and you don't anymore.
That's true.
And I think that...
Would you say it's the third best quarterback in the CFL right now?
Here's the thing. I think that there is some tiers when it comes to quarterbacks. And I would say that Trevor Harris is a second-tier quarterback. But I would put him...
How many are in that first tier, though?
Two.
Right.
There's two guys in that first tier. You had one of them. You lost him.
Absolutely.
And now everything about the guts and the balls of Mike Riley and the heart and the carry the whole team on his back is being downloaded onto a guy
that's not his
that
stuff.
Hasn't necessarily proven that he can be that kind of leader. Sure. And I think when you're transitioning in the type of leadership that you're going to get in the locker room from the guy, and let's not forget, I don't care what team it is, the starting quarterback has got to be the guy in the locker room. The locker room, their attitude towards the game pervades through the entire team, whether it's fair or not. The starting quarterback has to be one of the guys. Now, there can be other guys. Yes. There can absolutely be other guys.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think the swagger of your team and the attitude of your team is drawn so heavily from that of your starting quarterback that the loss in fortitude, if you will, from Ricky Ray. I mean that too.
That was very 2011 of you.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I looked up, I saw a punter, and I went, Ricky Ray got traded for one of those.
That one.
That one you're looking at.
No, but the download from Mike Riley to Trevor Harris, I think, is a substantial step. And the recovery process of learning what your team is going to be under that new leadership is going to, I think that's going to take a substantial amount of time. I think any, I would be saying the same thing about Calgary if Bo Mitchell had gone to Toronto, which was rumored, or Saskatchewan, which was rumored, that taking over the locker room is going to take time. It didn't happen right away for Bo in his first year.
Didn't happen for Riley.
Right? It didn't happen to Riley here. Yeah. It takes time to insert yourself into the culture of the team. It takes time to assert your leadership in the locker room. And so because of that and the upgrades made in BC, I think it's going to be a tough season for the Eskimos. I think that BC is substantially better than they were.
I would agree with that.
I would suggest that Winnipeg is just as good as they were. Calgary is just as good as they were. The middle of the defense needs some help, obviously.
Yes.
They lost the best D-tackle, the best middle linebacker in the league, so you have to find those two spots. And in fact, we also lost Jameer Thurman, who I thought was an incredibly underrated will linebacker.
Right.
So Calgary has some work to do up the middle to get there on defense, but I think their offense is going to be just as good as it's ever been. And Calgary had enough will score enough points to win most of their games based on offense alone. I think the defense could afford to be a lot less dominant than they were last year and still win a ton of games. I don't know that that's the case here.
Well,
because I don't know that
You're
guys
going to probably say what I was going to say.
kind of played that style of game last year. I think you guys won a lot of high-scoring games and didn't win a lot of low-scoring games.
But could it be the way around now? I mean, we look at our defense versus last year.
Your
defensive coordinator has changed.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a more aggressive defense. You've got the guy who was the most outstanding defensive player in the East is now our middle linebacker, who's worked with the Sam linebacker. We have Santos Knox now with the team. I think that could be a stronger defense, if not a weaker offense.
With all due respect to the most outstanding defensive player from the East, would you put him in the top 3 or 4 for most outstanding defensive player in the West? Probably not.
Based on his play last year, absolutely I would.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dean? Yeah.
He was outstanding. Every time I watched Hamilton play, he stood out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't
think we would have won, but I'm saying that,
with no disrespect, with no disrespect intended, because he had a phenomenal season.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at the defensive players that were out west, I don't know that he's in that top tier. I think Micah Johnson's a better defensive player than Larry Dean was last year. Alex Singleton was a better defensive player than he was last year.
Different kind of role.
Well, I
Micah
understand
Johnson,
that.
yeah.
I understand that. But even I would suggest that Larry Dean is not. I don't know that he starts in Calgary last year.
Would he this year?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. No. Yes.
Based on
The
conversations
yes.
I've had, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, would I like him in the locker room to start the season? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I would. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that you guys got so much better on defense that you're going to be able to survive the downgrade on offense.
Huh?
And I think that if you. I mean, and all of that is speculation based on roster, and chemistry is going to play, and scheme is going to play, because they're going to be running a new scheme this year. So maybe players that weren't as effective last year are going to be more effective under a different scheme. All kinds of things can play into it. But I think when you lose the heart and soul of the franchise at the moment, and there's no question, I think, from anybody in the league that Mike Riley was the heart and soul of the franchise.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So when you lose that, replacing that isn't easy, and replacing that takes time, and guys in the locker room are going to have to fight for that spot to be the next heart and soul guy. And are they successful in leading the locker room and successful in team building? Or are they as successful at haberdashery? I think it's going to say something about what this Eskimos team is going to be able to accomplish. And I mean, the idea, well, we brought in there's these receivers and everything. I don't think you upgraded at receiver. I think you just got another competent receiver.
Right.
I think and we've seen guys have big seasons in Ottawa and then move somewhere else. Now, granted, Trevor Harris came with them this time.
Yes.
But we have seen guys in Ottawa that had a great year under a certain scheme and then moved into a different scheme and weren't as successful. But then again, you've got Satellite up here, and he's worked with these guys before too.
Satellite
in Ottawa.
I shouldn't say anything about Jason Moss because I'm close enough that he could hear me. But that's wherever he is.
And maybe you kind of look like a Gatorade bottle. You better be careful.
That's right. I am big and orange, and full of it sometimes. So I think I could be
full of liquid death. Perfect.
Could be in a lot of danger.
It's entirely.
But I think that the downgrades. I mean, you guys made upgrades at certain positions, but I think those upgrades are going to be less noticeable than the downgrades that you took. And I think in a season where you were already fighting for it, and not being as successful as you would hope to have been last season, I think when you counteract that with what you've gained and lost in the offseason, I think your overall roster grade is probably lower than it was last year. And I think that that's a huge... The biggest part of that is that Mike Riley went back to BC.
Yeah, well, I think that's it's a valid point. I'm not saying that the loss of Mike Riley doesn't mean anything. Of course it does. But I do think that Brock went out and did a good job of replacing what he could. And I think that, like you said, Mike, I'm interested to see how much better the defense is. The offense has to be average
Competent.
if the defense can play better. Like,
were
that's
your
really what it
linebackers
is.
the problem last year, though?
I think there was certainly problems across the board. I think scheme was the biggest
Scheme
problem.
was probably the biggest one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the secondary ended up getting hung out to dry a lot because of that scheme.
Yeah.
Right. Who was DC up here last year? Was it
Benavides.
Pooh Bear? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
Pooh Bear?
Yeah, look at him. Pooh Bear. He looks like Pooh Bear.
oh my.
I won't look at him the same.
Oh my.
Waddling around with his head stuck in a jar of honey, wondering what's going on.
Hat on backwards. Looks just like okay. All right. Well, let's go.
Most downloads ever.
That's right. Yeah. Let's go to our conversation with an alumni member, shall we? Just for fun. Let's bring in our guest for this evening, other than the wonderful podcaster.
Oh,
Ryan.
the Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah.
I can't believe you guys got a Dallas Cowboy on this
We
show.
did.
Did he ever play anywhere else?
Let's find out.
Let's ask him. Making his second appearance on the pod of Kent's, of course, he's one of the friends of the show. It's number 27, Singor Mobley. Welcome back to the Turf District, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know you're welcome anytime, so that's good. Now, I did see that you were tuning in when we had JMO on,
Yeah.
and I figured he left us with a few things that we could ask you about, but the first thing I want to... The first thing I wanted to ask you was, what was it like working with JMO when you were here?
Oh man, he was a great guy. Just outstanding gentleman. Good to be around. Always had good conversations with him. Kept us all in line.
Yeah.
Kept us all in line, and made sure we're doing our media stuff properly and all that. But yeah, he's just a great guy. Can't say anything bad about JMO.
No, I'm right with you because, we love having him here. He's a great storyteller, too. So now, on that note, tell us about Emma's back porch.
Oh, my goodness. Emma's back porch. That was in Hamilton, if I remember correctly.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, man. That place was amazing. I think we were staying out in Hamilton for a couple of days. We didn't go back to Edmonton because I forgot who else we had to play out there. So we stayed at a little hotel that was down the way.
Okay.
And yeah, Emma's back porch. Yeah. A lot of adult beverages went down there.
I had a feeling that might have been the case.
Yeah, there's a lot of adult beverages, because it was in walking distance, like literally walking distance from the hotel. So, yeah, so as long as you get up for practice in the morning, it really doesn't matter. So that's the way we took it. So, Emma's porch is a really nice spot. It looked over the water and everything, and yeah. Good music and good drink.
Awesome.
I can say that much.
I think that's all we're getting.
So if you're ever in that area, you need to go by there. If that's what it's still up. That was a long time ago, so it might not be there anymore, but it might be.
We'll go look. We'll go look.
Yeah, try it out.
So some of those guys that you would have played with back then that probably went to Emma's, we did speak with the newest special teams coordinator, AJ Gass, last week. So what do you think he's going to bring to the special teams unit up here?
Well, playing with AJ and knowing AJ, he's going to bring intensity. And he's going to demand the best out of the guys on special teams. I'm pretty sure he's going to bring in just the way that he played, try to instill the way he played with the newer guys, younger guys, a new a different type of athlete, I would say, nowadays than when I played and then the guys that played before me. So I think he's going to try to instill toughness, hard work, and knowing your job, and knowing what everyone does on the team.
Awesome. Now, we asked actually AJ when we had him if he had any thoughts about getting the band back together with you and him. So now he said you were busy coaching DBs, and of course now you're the defensive coordinator at the College of the Desert. So how has that been kind of for you as a transition to coaching?
It's sometimes it's frustrating, but it's I mean, it's like I said, with the newer athlete, it's completely different. It's the way you got to coach them, the way you talk to them. It's completely different than when I played. But I like it. It's competitive. It's still basically it's my guys are better than your guys type of deal. And that's the way we look into it, and try to have them ready every week and challenge them, and have every stone turned over with every possibility, to give our guys the best chance to win. These last couple of years have been tough because, being a college coach, you're recruiting. So, the guy that you want, yes, you might not get, So it's a little bit different than a pro team where, the dollars are involved and, you show enough money to a certain guy, that guy is going to come to your team. Being a college coach, it's, financials always is a deal, because, some parents don't have that money to send their kids to school. So you might lose a guy just because of that. And that's just part of the business. So, the key thing is, we got to recruit a lot, and have depth. As long as you have depth and quality guys, because guys get injured, guys are ineligible because of grades, so it's so much harder on a college level than a pro level, because pros, they don't have to go to class. So, they
have to get to film, but that's
right, it. Yeah. Exactly. They don't have to go to class. I mean, or pass an English class or a math class or something like that. So that's one of the key struggles is just making sure your guys go to class and just show up. The worst thing, like I tell my guys, is like, if you just go to class, I'm pretty sure you'll get a C. You're showing your face. Yeah. It's showing your face every day, and just turn in the work. But for some reason, they don't want to listen to me. But I don't know. I think I've been there, done that. So because they get, some guys get it. We've had some guys, go to UCLA and USC and Kentucky. So some guys get it, some guys don't.
Did you ever watch the Netflix show Last Chance U?
Yes, I have watched it, and it's I think it's a little over the top, especially this last round. I forgot the coach's name, but
it's not coming to me either.
Yeah, he was a little over the top, and as a junior college coach, we don't want to have that image that he portrayed on TV or on Netflix, because it's the wrong image. Our job is to try to get these kids out in 2 years or 1 year to go to a bigger school and help them grow as young adults. The one thing that I tell players, to go pro, I mean, it's so low percentage. I think it's like 2%, 3%. And like, heck, you might have a better chance winning the lottery than being a pro athlete. I mean, it's just serious. I mean, but at the end of the day, if you have an education, you can always fall back on that. And, that's what I tell everybody.
Right.
Just get the education. If the football comes, hey, that's a bonus. But, once football's over, you gotta, that education is going to come into play at some point in time, and that's just the honest truth,
Yeah. No kidding.
So, but I just try to be straight up with them because that's what most kids ask. Just be straight up. All right, if you suck, I'm telling you suck. So, you wanted honesty, so there you go.
Be careful what you ask for some days. Yeah.
But, hey, like now I got a safety. I'm like, dude, you need to lose about 15 pounds. It's kind of slow out there. What's that, dude, coach?
Nice.
I'm like, it's the truth. He looks at himself. Yeah, I do lose about 10. Yeah, see, not so.
Wow.
So, going back to some of the guys you played with, are you still in contact with some of the former Eskimos, guys like Terry Ray or people like that?
You know what? I haven't talked to Terry Ray. Actually, you know what? I haven't talked to him on phone, but we text a lot. Torrey Hunter, we talk a lot. Ed Hervey, we're texting back and forth every now and then. And the reason why, like with Torrey, he's a scout, so they always ask if we got any guys that can't make it to another college type of player. So we talk back and forth about that just to try to give a guy a tryout or something like that. So. Yeah, we talk very often. It's hard when it's football season. Because we can't get together.
Yeah.
I think this is 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. I think Stacy Gass, AJ's wife. I think her parents or someone had a timeshare out here, so we got to catch up and have some lunch, a couple brews.
Nice.
I think a lot of people don't realize that I live down in Palm Desert, California. So when they do come in, it's like, hey man, you're in town. You didn't even let me know. So man, I didn't know you were here. Yeah. But I talked to a lot of guys that have played against or played for other teams and stuff like that. So, especially down here in California, a lot of players live down in this area. So,
okay, that's awesome. Now, of course, you mentioned all of those guys that are now playing for or helping a different team that we won't talk about, but now. You have all these other guys that on our coaching staff with Moss and
Tim
Princeton, and of course Jason Tucker. So now, do you talk to those guys too? I don't know what happens when you're now in a different coaching role and you're helping out these kids, but you've got these guys that but then they're all some are on different teams and some are with the team you played with. And how does that go for you?
Well, it's a business. So, a job is a job. Wherever you can get that job at, and it's your passion, hey, you're on that team. But the one thing that I don't care who they coach for, they're still my brothers. And we still went to championships together. We bled together. We cried together. I wish them the best. Now, if I got to pick between the two, what team I'm going to root for, I got to root for the Eskimos. come on now.
There. Okay, good. I was a little worried there.
No, that's just the way it is. I we green and gold. And that's the only team I'm going to root for, so.
Extra points for you for saying that while you're on the Eskimo podcast. That's good. That's perfect. So
I wish them all good luck.
Wish them good luck and then hope our team wins.
Right.
I like this. I like this the way this is going.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now you've watched the game a little bit more. What do you think of the game, like the CFL game now, as compared to when you played? I mean, we even look at things like video review and stuff like that. What do you think about that when you watch the games now?
Well, I think it's good for the game. With the video review and the challenges and stuff like that, I think it's evolving the game, making it more watchable. I mean, it's always been exciting, more exciting than the NFL by far. But it's picking up. It's picking up. I think for a while there, it was a little bit behind.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit, not a lot compared to the NFL. But like I said, it's a good game, exciting. And there's 3 minutes is a lifetime.
Absolutely.
3 minutes is a lifetime, man. You could have a whole, almost another quarter in 3 minutes in the season.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You could get 3 or 4 touchdowns right there. I mean,
That's right.
it's an exciting game, and it's good that they're adding replay and to help expand the game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
They have to make it better somehow. That's right. Which is fantastic. Now, I'm going to ask you, where do you see the Esks going this year? What do you think their big challenges are this year, being that all the guys that are coaching them now?
Right. They got a good staff. They brought in some good guys. They brought in some Eskimo blood. So they know the tradition. They know what's at stake. They know what's expected out of them. And hopefully they can instill, their style of play into the players, to give them the history of the team. And, and that's the one thing when I started, I had a good group of guys to teach me the way, with Willie Pless, Larry Ruck, Malvin Hunter, Benny Goods, Jed Roberts. The list goes on and on and on. I think once you get that, people believing in that, I know they won the Grey Cup. How many years ago was that?
4.
That'd be 4 now. Yeah.
4 years. Yeah. So, a lot has changed. You lost a quarterback, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We'll replace him with somebody who will have to show what he can do on the west side of the CFL. Yeah. Right.
He's got someone's got some shoes to fill.
Yep.
And there's going to be high expectation. So all around the board, playing in Edmonton is probably way different than playing anywhere else because the expectation and what the fans expect, what the organization expects. It's high stress.
So basically, we're spoiled, is what you're saying. Is we really want you to just win all the time?
Yeah, seriously, that's what it is. It's like, okay, we got a football team. All right, so you guys are going to be in the playoffs. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, because I know when when I was playing, I think they put the playoff ticket in season tickets.
Yep, they still do. Yeah,
Still do. Exactly. See, so there you go. There you go. If they still do it, they still expect it.
We're with you, win or tie.
That's right.
Talk about no pressure. Oh, yeah, by the way, we got playoff tickets in the season package. So we expect you to be in the playoffs at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're not asking a lot. We just really want you guys to be as good as we know you can be. That's all. I mean, that's it. I guess the next...
I had no problem with it because the guys that I played with, I'm like, yeah, we're definitely going to be at home playing in the playoff days.
That's a good point. It's kind of hard to argue that when you got Ricky Ray. That's very true.
Yeah. All our offensive weapons and our defense was good. So, we're going to be in the playoffs. So we're just waiting for that day.
I like that.
After that.
Exactly. Now, so when are you coming back up Edmonton way so that we can sit down and have a beer with you and actually hear the stories about Emma's back porch that you can't tell on the podcast? I'm going to try to get up there before season starts for us because we start in July. Nice.
8th is when we start. So we get, I think, June off. The whole month of June before we come back to camp. So that would probably be the best time. So get
Perfect.
that out of the way, come see some family and see some buds and catch up with some folks and probably watch some practice, or maybe you guys might be in games right then. Probably.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We got a game on the 14th and a game on the 22nd, so you can come up and join us at the tailgate, and we'll make sure that we treat you well for a game.
All right, that sounds good.
It is always awesome catching up with you, man. Tell us, where does everybody find you online so that they can catch up with you?
Oh, man, my Instagram is Singor Mobley 27, so you can always find me there. Or on Facebook. I really don't use Facebook as much as I should. I think I have like 700 friend requests, and I'm like, So it's been a while since I've accepted anyone, but, I still check it every now and then. But the easiest way to get a hold of me is through Instagram. That's probably my go-to right now.
Perfect.
And then just, showing my daily workouts or some quote or something just to motivate people and, try to make some changes out there.
Awesome. And of course, I always catch up with you on Twitter at Singor27, so there's that one too. This is just as awesome, man. We can't wait to catch up with you, so make sure you let me know when you're coming into town.
I will do that.
All right, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I love chatting with Singor. He's so awesome. And I think he'll make an appearance later in the show.
You just think so, huh?
Possibly.
You know what's weird? I listened to you talk to this guy for a long time, and there was nothing about his Cowboys career.
No, we asked him about that the first time.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, that's the thing that people really want to hear about.
Not really. No.
As a Cowboys fan, I can assure you that that's the only thing. There was all this talk about games against Calgary. I don't even remember any of the wins he talked about. I'm not sure that they happened. I'm really afraid that he's been concussed and has some sort of fantasy going. No, of course. No, another player that you have to respect.
I was there for those ones. Yes.
Group delusions are terrible. No, of course you have to respect a guy that came out. He was one of the best. One of the best Eskimo defenders to ever strap on the pads.
Yeah,
which of course, as a Stampeders fan, is why I hate him.
Yes, that's fair.
So much.
That is fair.
And so I think if the opposition fan base doesn't hate you, then you haven't done your job.
Then you haven't done exactly what you're supposed to do. Exactly.
That's right.
That's why everybody that listens to this show is kind of upset with you.
Reigning and defending.
I mean, nice. Let's take a really quick break, and then we will come back with more CFL news, more with podcaster Ryan, a little bit of schedule talk, and the Esks history moment.
Hey there, this is your co-host, Kenny Stafford, with the Eskimo Empire Podcast. Hope you guys enjoy listening.
The Eskimo Empire Podcast is brought to you by United Construction Company. As a full-service commercial general contractor, United Construction Company serves large and small-scale commercial, light industrial, and multifamily residential construction projects across Western Canada. UCC is a relationship-focused builder, forming a trust and respect that is at the forefront of their commitment to quality, value, and integrity. Visit their website at unitedconstruction.ca to find out more and support them as they support the Empire.
Get loud for me. Get loud for me. Get loud for me. Hands in the crowd, we tearing it down.
You can join the Empire online.
Find us at eskempire.ca.
Check out all the new blogs and then follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
For more history, follow at Esks History on Twitter.
And even more of my pics on Esk Empire Photo.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to help the pod grow. Thanks again for listening. Let's get back to the show. All right, welcome back from not going anywhere. Now, we haven't taken some time in all of our shows that we've done in the off-season to chat a bit about the schedule. And here we are only 7 weeks away from our first preseason game.
It's going to be May.
It's going to be May. Now, okay, what is your feeling on that? Do you think the CBA is going to get done in time for that?
I think that if you have players that start realizing they're losing game checks, that could be working in the league
game
favor.
Check count the same way?
Here's how I see this deal getting done. The cap is going to go up.
Yeah,
the minimum is going to go up,
which it should.
Mm-hmm. And when the minimum goes up, all of those guys making the minimum are going to want to accept the deal, and those guys far outweigh the guys not making within that 10,000-15,000 of the minimum.
Oh,
so I think when you look at a voting block, appealing to the guys that are on the bottom end of the roster and saying, "Hey, we'll get you an extra 10,000-15,000. We'll raise the minimum salary by 15,000 and the overall cap by 400,000 or 500,000 because that would accommodate all of those." 15,000, $10,000-$15,000 raises for the low guys. Right. The low guys are the guys that are going to win this deal for you. And especially if they're getting to this roster thing that they're talking about with reducing the ratio and that putting more American spots, well, Americans make up the better part of the CFLPA. Despite the fact that it's the Canadians that are constantly in power in the CFLPA, the bulk of the membership are American players. And so when you've got more than half the league as American players and more than half the league within that 5,000 to 10,000 of the minimum paycheck, you put those two things on the table and they're going to accept this deal. And so I think that's how it gets done. I think that Randy Ambrosie is smart enough to know that. They're going to want to build on the momentum of what was a phenomenal Grey Cup game, results only. But I think that,
what did you call that earlier? Is playing the Grey Cup at the Briar?
Playing the Grey Cup at the Briar. I'm not sure which event that Edmonton thought it was hosting in November, but they put the Briar field out, and turns out we were supposed to be playing football on it.
Right.
And they only had an entire, 18 months to plan for the possibility it might be cold in Edmonton outside at the end of November. I'm not sure why. The idea that the turf didn't get tented or any of that stuff. I mean, we haven't really talked, I think, since the game on this show. On this show. Did we? Have we?
Yeah, I thought we did.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
But I mean,
cupcake.
It was it was possible to have the field in much better condition than they had it.
Right.
And I kind of feel like if Edmonton was in it, it would have been.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think that The care and attention to the playing surface was not nearly as good as it should have been, despite everything around the Grey Cup being the best festival ever to this date.
Yes.
I thought that the game itself, because of the conditions, didn't then live up to the hype of what was possible and what could have been one of the greatest Grey Cup weeks of all time. I think is marred by the idea that players were effectively on skates. Or would have been better off on skates than they were in shoes.
Broomball shoes.
Yeah, exactly. I actually think, and I know this is going to sound funny, but I actually think that it wasn't cold enough to make the extra steps on the field leading up to the game. Like the 3 weeks leading up to the game, it was hot and cold and hot and cold and hot and cold and hot and cold.
And that's what they blamed the field on. They said it had melted and frozen, melted, frozen, melted and frozen, and had created this block of ice at the bottom of the field that they couldn't heat. But they knew that a week out, at least a week out, they knew that the field was going to be in trouble. And so if you've got a week, you could have tarped it, tented it, and blown hot air into it for a week, except when people were on the field at practice. You could have taken the tarps away and put the tarps back on. And I know you could do that because there's a stadium in the States that brought in a damn helicopter. They heated the field to defrost it, and they flew a helicopter into the middle of the stadium and had helicopters blowing the air downward to dry the field in time for a bowl game.
Oh.
So, I mean, I know it's possible. I mean, unlikely you're going to get helicopters.
Yes,
I mean, this
exactly,
isn't WrestleMania.
Yeah, this is
yet.
But but at that point, like, I think there were things that could have been done, and they just chose not to. And I think that they chose not to just make the effort. Like, even if they had come out and made some sort of effort, but there was no effort publicly talked about anyway.
There
was no publicly talked about effort to improve the conditions on the field.
Yeah.
And I mean, you and I were at the game in Ottawa, the torrential snow, and every whistle, they were out there with the Kubota.
That's right.
You know, things
getting the snow
shoveling
off
and getting the snow, and it just stuff like that didn't happen in that game, and it was a little disappointing. But the end result was Grey Cup champions. So
all right,
and for an entire year, I can describe the weather as raining and defending, which I will do.
I'm terribly shocked.
Anytime it comes from the sky.
It's wonderful.
30 degrees, raining, and defending.
Oh, my. All right.
Best weather girl ever.
Yeah, exactly. Superfan, anything that jumped out with you on the Esks schedule? Because I did want to ask you about it, if there was something that kind of... that you noticed that you wanted to chat about? Or?
Well, I think we've talked about it obviously seems like it's moving earlier and earlier, the Grey Cup. And the Grey Cup looks like it's getting earlier as we get into the Saskatchewan and Hamilton games.
Right.
We're not going to be around the 29th, 30th of November.
More 20th, 21st, right? That's kind of where
this weekend.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It's getting there. I mean, it's been earlier. It's been November 16th even.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to start seeing it move in that direction. That's been Randy's. It's been Randy's...
I thought you were calling me. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
These cupcakes are so good. And then you turn 50 and it's just,
That's right, yeah.
No, I think that's been Randy's plan for a long time, is to move it earlier. It's something he's wanted to do. Every time we had the Randy's road trip, he asked the crowd, would you be in favor of it being a couple of weeks earlier? Everyone seemed to be at least amenable to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing I noticed, is just checking to see if it was going to get earlier, and it sure is.
All right.
Yeah, I'm always baffled by the people who say, well, I don't want it earlier. It rains in the spring. You can hold an umbrella and stay dry. Yeah. You can't hold up an umbrella and get warm. like nothing about holding up an umbrella is going to all of a sudden take it from -40 to pleasant. Holding up an umbrella in the rain is going to take it from raining and defending to pleasant. Oh, it sucks out there for the players, but I am dry underneath this umbrella.
Right.
What? Like,
I don't think I heard anyone complaining about rain, but I did hear people...
That's what I've heard people complain about. Yeah,
For me...
Well, it could snow in May. It could, but it will in November.
Yeah.
Like, let's play the odds here.
I think what I've heard is that then you're going head-to-head with the Stanley Cup Finals and moving it earlier. Like, all of a sudden it's in May, or you start having that early June, then you're going to be losing viewers.
And that might draw some people from Stamps games this year.
It might.
That might draw people from one Stamps game this year.
I was going to say, for us, we don't care.
No,
it's never going. It doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter.
no.
Make it earlier. Great. It goes right from golf season right to football. I'm great with that.
Right.
I'm perfect with that.
Do you stop golfing at the end of May?
They could. No. I meant like Oilers go to golf season. We go to football.
Okay,
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So I think what they should do actually is move training camp right up to mid-April, like right now.
Right now,
be fine. Because for us, it won't matter. Right. So it's perfect.
No, the Oilers are not going to be in the playoffs anytime soon.
No.
Hashtag free McDavid.
All right. Well, I'm going back now to.
But yeah, the schedule.
Okay?
The thing that bugs me is I think we only play each other twice. That's what the gang signed up about.
3 times.
Do we play each other 3 times?
Yes, there's once in August.
But not until Labor Day.
No, once in August.
Once in August?
Yeah.
Or it's 3 times in 5 weeks or something stupid?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
I wanted that game spread out a bit.
Right.
I think that's the natural rivalry, and I wanted that.
I agree.
I think a 10th team would really help because then you could have those natural rivalries.
But are you going to?
I don't know.
I mean, if you go to a 10th team and you go to a balanced schedule, that's one home and one away.
That's true.
It would have to be unbalanced, or it's one game home and away for every team.
Right.
Which I don't mind that either, quite frankly. Especially because you've got you would be forced into real parity at that point. But I think you'd still have your East and West divisions in the playoff races, respectively, among the East and West.
Right.
But you would have the same amount of teams playing the same amount of teams, and you wouldn't have Calgary beating you up 3 times in a year. It might only be twice.
Oh. Like last year.
Most other
teams. They didn't.
Oh, wait. No, that didn't happen last year.
Reigning and defending.
Excellent.
I'm waiting 5 years to be able to say it.
Reigning and defending.
That's perfect. Yeah.
I'm
surprised he didn't stumble over the first 2 times and then got it right on the third time. Because that's how it really should go.
Any fan that sits there and says, "Yeah, I'd rather my team not make the Grey Cup than lose it."
Yeah, no.
Fire truck.
There's no way that you actually believe that.
No.
And if you believe that,
yeah,
you're a terrible fan. You are god awful. If you believe that you'd rather have your team not make the Grey Cup than lose in the Grey Cup, god awful fan. You're terrible. You're terrible. You're a guy that gets your jersey with your name on it. That's how bad you are. It's awful.
I got to take my jersey back.
Yeah, I was going to say. Guess I better cancel that order right away. Now, see, along those same lines,
it's Thomas Haskins.
Exactly. Haskins. Yeah. Same lines as what you just said. We don't play Saskatchewan until a back-to-back at the end of the season.
Right.
So you guys are going to just get 2 free wins at the end of the season?
I hope so.
What kind of garbage is this? Because as bad as I feel like the offseason was for the Eskimos, because I do think it was bad. It was manageable. What happened in Saskatchewan, they're like, we've got a quarterback that threw less touchdowns than we had wins last year.
The defense scored more than the offense.
The defense, I did that math. I sat down and I tracked every Saskatchewan game because I was having this argument with somebody. I went through and counted all of their touchdowns. Mm-hmm. They won, 12 games last year?
12 games last year.
So they won 12 games. Yeah. And I believe, and I'd have to go back and check my work, but I believe in 9 of their wins, the defense outscored the offense.
Yep.
So if their defense doesn't score touchdowns regularly, they don't win. Yeah. Period.
Right.
Their offense is so bad. It's so bad that their defense literally needs to score at least 7, if not 14 points in a game for them to be able to win. Yeah. And there were games where they were winning by 4 or 5. Their defense put up 21 points, and they still only won by 4. Right. If your defense scores 21, you should be winning by at least 21.
You would think.
That should be the minimum requirement. If your defense scores 3 touchdowns, you should win by 3 touchdowns. That should be the minimum requirement, because your offense should at least match the other team's offense. But god damn.
But again, who
had a worse offseason so far, Saskatchewan or Ottawa?
Oh, well, I mean, oof.
That that actually brings up a really funny point that I just want to make. When they announced that Elizondo had left Ottawa
For the XFL?
I swear I thought I'm like, it's April 1st. This is just a joke. And then the next day they publish it again. I'm like, oh crap, that wasn't a joke. That really happened. Like, wow.
Yeah.
That is
Ottawa's quarterback is going to be
Jonathan Jennings.
I would say Jonathan Jennings.
Jonathan Jennings. Well,
Dominic?
I mean, bright side, he's not playing Western teams every week.
That's very true. Yeah.
I mean, he's going to play. He's going to play. Well, I mean, he's going to play them twice each.
Yeah.
So I mean that
New
could
spot.
get you to a 6-12 record, which is enough to make the playoffs in the East.
Yeah, that's a good
I mean,
point.
let's not forget how bad Toronto and Montreal are. So
do you think Toronto's going to be that bad this year?
They've got 16 running backs.
Yeah. So they're going to just run wishbones every game. Like, Mike is just going to be like...
There's not even offensive linemen anymore.
Nope.
It's just a
running
back playing every
Wildcat.
position. It's straight Wildcat. The running backs are the O-line. They're the receivers. You have no idea who's getting the carry because every guy is a running back.
That's right.
It's just they're changing their name.
Brilliant deception.
Even on defense.
Yeah. Well, yeah. All the players are running backs from top to bottom. But yeah, I mean, how does Toronto get better? Again, this league starts and stops at quarterback. This league starts and stops at quarterback. If you have championship aspirations, this league starts and stops at quarterback. Your defense might be able to get you a Grey Cup, but it happens far less than the team that stands out and has one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
One of the best quarterbacks and Canadian depth.
Yeah.
Those are the
That's
two
it.
things.
That's
I
it.
would agree. Yeah.
And if they reduce the Canadian roster spots, even less Canadian
Well, it's
depth
the starters,
will be needed. For starters. Well, but are they talking about just starters? Or are they talking about the overall? Like, this
Starters.
whole ratio thing is
They're talking about going from 7 to 5 right now. So
which
that
is
means,
ridiculous.
I agree.
It's
it's a tactic to me.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of reducing the Canadian talent from 7 to 5, mostly because, again, I believe in Canadian depth. I believe in good drafting. I believe in good scouting. I believe that the ratio has been an essential part of how teams have been built for the last, I mean, if you want to start reducing that Canadian content in the idea of bringing in international players, just make international players ratio exempt like they were before. If a guy doesn't play American football, he's a national player.
Right.
Like they always had been. Like there is still one guy in the league that is that. I think the Boris Beatty, I think, is the
From
guy
France.
that counts. Yeah.
Yes.
Because he's technically Canadian because he never played American football.
Right.
Just go back to that.
Yeah.
And then all of your world players, if they're good enough, they're going to play.
Right.
Period. No exemptions. No, you have to have internationals on your team that are from outside of the U.S. None of that. Just make them count as nationals. Keep your 7 starters, and away we go. I don't know. I don't understand why this is so hard. And maybe it's because Randy wants to guarantee the audience.
I think that's what it is.
We need to put a German on the
spot.
team so that a German can,
He wants a global spot so that somebody from those other areas is watching the games for that person. Or
but if they're not
the two
starting,
people that are on the field.
if they're not
But
starting,
that's the thing. If they make it a global position, then there would be one starter on every game.
God, no.
Yeah.
I they're talking about 2 at one point.
I know they were talking about 2, but
never
2 is
mind the
ridiculous.
fact that you're just going to find some giant somewhere,
Right.
and plunk him down at
A
at
sumo
guard.
on the offensive line.
Yeah,
guard.
Yeah, he's our Japanese import, and he is 640 pounds.
Nice.
And he can play. We can't find equipment for him, but we strap 2 sets of pads together and hope for the best. I mean, I don't. Don't mess with it that much. Just make them Canadians again and have the 7 spots. And if they earn the spot, they earn the spot.
Yeah.
Because I want competitive football. And I understand that if we did away with the ratio, we would have more talented players probably than we do now.
On average.
From across the league, I think. There are definitely Canadians that can play this game.
Andrew
and
Harris.
have proven to play this game very, very well. And at the best of their position, like Andrew Harris.
Yeah. Alex Singleton,
Brad Sinopoli.
Kind of Canadian. Yeah.
He's not kind of Canadian. His mom is Canadian.
Yeah, but
what more
where
do you
was
want?
he born?
That doesn't matter.
He's a national, but is he a Canadian?
Look, to quote our esteemed, hopefully soon to be voted out Prime Minister, a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. And if you're Canadian, that means your kids are Canadian. And I have no qualms about that. I don't think that anyone should. I think if mom is a Canadian citizen, then you're Canadian. And I think all of that should be enough for everybody. So anybody that wants to wave their hands or put up the air quotes when they say Canadian about Alex Singleton, it's
Fire trucker.
Your parent. I'm just creating
Cahoon.
more work for your editors.
Ben Cahoon.
But it wasn't. But I also agree with the nationalization of a position too.
Right.
Yes.
If you've played in the league, you're. Look at Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith has played for the Calgary Stampeders. He's going on his 11th season in the league.
Does he live year-round in Canada?
He goes home. But he's played 11 seasons. That used to be a rule, too, back in the day.
It did.
As I look at your encyclopedia brain.
But they had to live here year-round.
But even if that's the case, guys will start to live here year-round
that's what I'd like
if they
to see.
can get to be paid like a Canadian.
Yes.
Look at Charleston Hughes.
Yeah.
Charleston Hughes has lived in Canada year-round for years and years.
Yep.
I got a guy, and I think he will forever. I don't know that he has any intention of moving back.
Yeah. We talked about it last week.
Over.
We talked about if there should be a naturalized Canadian position, or just allow them into the ratio.
But even at that, and I mean, maybe you limit that on a team. Okay,
One or
you
two.
can only have two guys or one guy that counts for, and that makes a team look at those guys and say, okay, you're going to be the guy that qualifies as this because we find value in a roster, and then those guys would end up getting paid like a Canadian, which apparently is a sticking point right now for the PA. I think there are ways to make that work, and there are ways that used to happen.
Yep.
And I never saw the logic in getting away from that.
Right.
You de-incentivize guys from putting roots down in the community when you took away the naturalized Canadian rule. You took away you took away the incentive for worldwide players to want to put themselves into the CFL by taking away the designation that allowed them to qualify as a Canadian player.
Right.
You've de-incentivized these things over the years that you're now trying to bring back.
Right.
Just do what you used to do. It's simple. It's
and
dead
roster wise, yes, I agree.
It's dead simple.
Yeah. No,
Easy for you to say.
Obviously. Yeah. Excellent cupcakes. All right. Shall we take a little break and do some Eskimo history?
Sure.
All right, let's do a little Eskimo history moment.
Let's hear you cheer and holler for a mighty famous team. Let's hear you roar, you know what, for a team that's on the beat. Our voices rise up to the skies, the fans are glad to scream. We love those Eskimos.
Welcome back to the Esks History Moment. Today we want to look back at a specific game in Eskimos history, one that helped sum up a season and show the league that Edmonton was a force to be reckoned with. Edmonton was facing their biggest rival a few days after losing a game that the team felt they should have won. Tempers had been flaring, and one of the biggest weapons on offense was not allowed to take the field in the rematch. This game at the time set the record for the highest attendance as a regular season game, and sound waves can probably still be felt rippling through the city. The game was the Labor Day rematch, and the date was September 5th, 2003. The 2003 season was all about unfinished business for the Eskimos. They had played in the home 2002 Grey Cup, renewing the traditional Grey Cup rivalry with the Montreal Alouettes. That was quarterback Ricky Ray's debut season, and while he played admirably, the Esks had a few bounces go against them and didn't play up to their abilities, they believed, and a 99-yard reception by Alouette's Pat Woodcock sealed the deal for the Green and Gold. 2003 was going to be different, was the message that the team said. Edmonton swept the preseason against the Rough Riders and Lions, but lost the home opener 34-16 versus, who else, the Montreal Alouettes. They beat Calgary in Week 2, but lost a defensive battle 14-12 against the Blue Bombers in Winnipeg. By the time mid-season rolled around, the Esks were finding their groove with a share of first place with a 7-3 record as they rolled into Calgary, who were sporting a dismal 2-8 record. But as everyone knows, all bets are off on Labor Day when it comes to the Battle of Alberta. This game was no exception to that rule. The game just felt off. Calgary opened the scoring with a 126-yard missed field goal return by Wayne Garrity, who also caught 2 passes for huge gains before leaving at halftime with a lower body injury. The Esks responded with a Sean Fleming 30-yard field goal, and the Stamps close out the first quarter, scoring with a Duncan O'Mahony single to lead 8-3. Ricky Ray opened the second quarter with a quarterback sneak for a touchdown to take the lead back for the good guys, but a Mark McLaughlin field goal, a touchdown by former Eskimo Don Blair, and a second rouge by O'Mahony swung the pendulum back towards the home team, who went in at halftime 19-10. Edmonton seemed to settle down in the second half, and were driving the field when Calgary defensive end Garrett Smith hit Esks quarterback Ricky Ray after he had run out of bounds, sending him careening into the Gatorade cooler and table when the tensions boiled over. Stampeder Sheldon Pastiak was in the middle of the fray, and Calgary defensive back, future Eskimo and friend of the podcast, Davis Sanchez, was jawing with Esks speedy receiver Ed Hervey when suddenly helmet started swinging and head lineman Brett Butko stepped in at the worst time and caught Hervey's blow to the head and was knocked down. While the team eventually calmed down, the damage was definitely done. Hervey was given an objectionable conduct penalty and sent to the locker room for the remainder of the game. Edmonton ended up with a field goal for their troubles in the third quarter to close the gap and trapped Calgary deep, forcing them to give up a safety to make it 19-15. The fourth quarter saw the visiting Eskimos take the lead after a 64-yard catch-and-run by Ray's favorite target, fellow sophomore-esque Jason Tucker, to open the final frame and lead 22-19. The celebration was short-lived, however, as the ensuing kickoff saw McGarrity's replacement, James Hunden, return the kickoff 102 yards for the major, and Edmonton was out of gas and couldn't finish the comeback. The loss saw Edmonton fall out of the first-place tie with the Bombers, who had beaten their rivals in the Labor Day game the day before, and to make matters worse, Ed Hervey was suspended by the Eskimos for his transgression in the third quarter, making him miss the return game 4 days later.
You know what? All those games against Calgary are intense, but this one was, it was a little bit different. It just felt different. I think it, the confrontation between Ed and Davis, Sanchez. I mean, that was crazy. Starting from the very beginning of the game, it was like edgy. I think the whole week leading up to it, basically was, we want to go out there and kick their butts, but it didn't happen. We lost, and then Ed got suspended for a week, and we had him back at our house, and I think it still boiled over from Monday to Friday.
The Eskimos themselves were seething after the loss. They felt they should have won the game and couldn't wait for the rematch on the Friday night. Fans had been buying tickets left and right, and it was hinted by the club that this could be a special night attendance-wise. By the time the team hit the field at 7:30 that night, the building was shaking with people filled to the rafters. By the time the attendance was announced late in the game, they realized that they had set an attendance record for a regular season game, with 62,444 fans packed into Commonwealth to the point of bursting. Official attendance was just over 60,000, so there were more fans than there were seats, and the deafening roar of the crowd echoed just how many were there. As for the game itself, Edmonton and Calgary showed once again that the two teams really did not like each other. Even players that had formerly suited up for the green and gold didn't particularly seem to retain that brotherly love for players across the stripe. Former Esks receiver Don Blair traded blows with defensive back Donnie Brady, while Charles Asman, with Edmonton for 4 years between 1998 and 2001, scuffled with Eskimo special teamer Sean Spender in the third. But this game was all about domination between the whistles. The teams seemed to be feeling each other out as nastily as they could in the first quarter. Calgary intercepted Edmonton at their 30, but Singor Mobley returned the favor, snaring an errant pass from Stamps quarterback Marcus Crandall to set up the game's first points when Ricky Ray tossed a pass to fullback Troy Mills, who lumbered 13 yards for the major. Do you have any memories of that interception?
Oh, man, probably not. I'm just going to be straight up. Probably not. It just goes by so fast. But I will tell you this, on that game, I took it on myself to make sure we'd win. Because I was so pissed off of that Ed wasn't playing. And, I talked to the guys before the game just to get them on a certain level, and just, I think I told them, just follow me and we'll take care of this. It happened. So, I think I had like 11 tackles or 12 tackles or something like that. And then the interception that you said that I had. It was just one of those nights of, hey, we're going to win this game, and I'm going to make sure we win this game.
As the game wore on, the Eskimos began to pull away. In the second quarter, the fans had been whipped into a fevered pitch, and the team responded. First, Mike Pringle, en route to his 5th 100-yard game that season, ran in the ball from the 2-yard line 2 minutes into the frame. 4 minutes later, Scott Robinson caught a short pass from Ray to make the score 21-0. Still, the fans got louder. Finally, the Eskimos ran a bit of trickery as the ball was handed off to receiver Jason Tucker on the reverse play, and he promptly ran it in for 14 yards for the 4th Eskimo major of the game. The Stampeders seemed unable to do much on either side of the ball, but none more so obvious than in the third when Mike Pringle got the ball, shrugged off a Stampeder defensive end, and ran 61 yards for the last major of the game, putting the hometown team up 35-0. Sean Fleming added the final scoring in the fourth quarter with the chip shot field goal that almost seemed anticlimactic after the first 3 periods, but the fans got to go home beaming, hoarse and exhausted after a non-stop thrashing by their beloved Eskimos.
You could not hear, like, at all. Like I was, Donnie Brady's like right next to me, and I'm trying to communicate with him, and he's looking at me like, I can't hear you. Literally the whole stadium was bouncing up and down. When you get a crowd of 62,000 doing that, just into the game. Oh yeah, it was wild. It was wild.
Edmonton has shut out opponents since then. Everyone probably remembers the 24 beating they gave Saskatchewan in 2014, and has even eclipsed their attendance record in 2009. But there has never been something more rewarding and enjoyable combination of excitement, energy, and a feeling of retribution quite like that Labor Day rematch nearly 16 years ago that will go down in Esks history as one of the best games we've ever been lucky enough to see.
Going for a touchdown. Going for a touchdown. Going for a touchdown. We love those Eskimos.
Thank you, Superfan. That was outstanding as always. I liked how you cut in some Singor moments.
Yeah.
It's very good. He did make us laugh, though. That was pretty good. Remember that interception? Nope. Okay. Well, that's all right. We do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole idea.
I bet you Marcus remembers it.
I have a feeling.
Oh, Marcus Crandall. He set that franchise back years.
Won the Grey Cup.
Years. I know, won the Grey Cup, and the Stamps are like, he won us a Grey Cup. He's turned the corner. No. He just got 3 games hot.
He got
3 games hot, and that was Marcus Crandall's blaze of glory.
Yep.
And then
not
signed
that he complained about it at the time.
No, of course not. And when he signed the contract, we all went, oh, well, he just won the Grey Cup. This is going to be great. And then he was god-awful. And then he led us to the Frederick days.
I was going to say, you thought it's got to get better after this.
Yeah, no, and then it really didn't. And it's funny, there was... Well, anyway, I'm not going to digress that deeply onto this show with Stamps history, but there was an onside punt that the Stamps recovered deep, and it should have absolutely been Stamps ball. And if there was replay back then, it would have been Stamps ball, and the entire season seemed to turn on that moment. Because after that, everything just fell apart, and they had found some momentum, and everything kind of tumbled down into terrible after that. And then we suffered through F Troop, which was another
disaster,
very big disaster. But if you can look back over the last some odd years and say that the 7-year gap was the biggest one you had, or not even 7 years was the biggest gap you had between Grey Cups. That's not terrible.
Well, over that time, yeah.
Yeah, over the last 30 years. Yeah, over the last 30 years.
48 to 71, but yeah.
No, we're counting 90 forward.
Oh, I see.
That's when I started watching CFL, so that's when the CFL existed.
Right.
It didn't exist in '89.
I've made this very clear. Well, it certainly didn't exist in '89. I think
the season league did. Just no Grey Cup.
Well, I thought that it had been folded in '89 because everything about that season has got awful, and then it was revived in 19. I think they just decided that '89 doesn't count.
Just the Grey Cup. You're right.
Yeah.
Regular season, everything about it. It just everything about it.
Record books say it did.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can. Yeah, I mean, sure. If you want to stand on our team couldn't even get to the Grey Cup despite having the second best regular season winning percentage of all time, you go with that.
Third.
Is it third?
Edmonton was 14-1-1 in 81.
Oh, 14-1-1. Okay, and then Calgary, of course.
Yeah, because they didn't even play Edmonton.
Right, 12-0.
Yeah.
12 undefeated. That's the only undefeated team.
They played 2 teams the entire year.
Come on. They played 12 games. They won 12 games, and they won a Grey Cup. Undefeated, and won the Grey Cup. Okay. This can happen, and it will happen again this season.
Okay, well, it's good to have those high hopes.
It's consistency.
I feel
That's what I like.
At the disco song coming
if there's no consistency in your game, what are you even doing? I mean, if I predicted anything else, I think the fans would riot.
That's
I think the
team,
fans,
at least.
The fans of this show would show up at this house and tear the studio to the ground.
This is not right.
Can't believe they haven't yet. They're still young.
Yeah, if they're going to tear it to the ground, they probably want me still in it.
I did tweet out a picture, but I waited till later just to make sure. Okay, I got a couple more CFL things just to chat about quickly. A big one. Well, you kind of, I guess, talked about it. The European player draft happening on May 2. The Esks pick 4th. Calgary, I think, picks last again because they were the Grey Cup champs in that one.
Reigning and defending. Yes, I believe that is the truth.
Excellent.
They will be drafting 9th overall, and there is nothing better than a 9th overall draft pick. I think the 9th overall draft pick is where I want to draft every year.
Unless you trade.
Sure. But I want to start with the 9th overall draft pick every year until Halifax is in, and then I'd like to start with number 10 if it's okay. If it's all right with you.
Tell you what, regardless of what happens in the Grey Cup, you can draft 10th overall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just for you.
Yeah.
We do okay. So.
Did you watch any of the combine with the European and global players?
No.
Okay.
No, hey, look. I appreciate guys that watch the combine. I appreciate guys that are that deep into the draft. But that's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to show up at game 1 and go, great, we got to win. That's my job. My job is to... my job's not to build the roster or judge talent or look at any of that. And never mind the fact that, the draft and the combine, the combine can lead you into some terrible decisions.
Well, it can, absolutely.
Face a Kakate.
My
or who was the other guy that went? Josiah St. John.
Right, number 1.
And he was talking guys online about getting a big paycheck because he was the number 1 overall draft pick and he can't start.
Yeah. Then he sat out and then...
Yeah, so I leave the draft to better men than myself. And
I don't get really deep into it. It's just the last couple of years because they've put it on CFL.ca. They've had the combine
and
showing
it's football
it live
in the off season,
and it's that's really what it is. It's like, hey, I just want to see, do any of these guys stand out in my mind? Or do at least I kind of have an idea of what their name is so that when we draft somebody, do I kind of know who they are?
And by the time the combine happens, the Oilers season is over.
Exactly.
We still have hockey left in Calgary.
To do.
So,
so it's,
it's hard to...
earlier. But it was good to just... You get to watch a little bit of football, and you get to see these up-and-coming guys that you're like, okay, that guy does stand out to me. But the reason I ask about watching it for the global guys is because these are guys that even if you did follow U Sports, you would have probably no idea who any of these guys are, right? So just trying to kind of wrap my head around how this whole draft is actually going to work, much like the Mexican one that we didn't know any of the guys down there, right? So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out when they come up here for camp.
Do you expect not to know any of these guys after camp?
Oh, no, we'll know something about them.
Yeah. Well, we'll be able to call their name in the stands for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Maybe one will turn out to be the Jimmy Gaines Award winner, and we just,
That's true.
We'd be so surprised. All right. Well, we better wrap up for this week because, oh my goodness, poor Mike. I do appreciate you coming by.
Yes.
Though.
I appreciate you guys saying yes, man. The idea that you guys were having Singor Mobley on the show and still allowed me to crash in is very well appreciated.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
And there's not, with and before, I still love you, Brian, but there's not a show I like visiting in studio more than this one, and that's because of what you've done with your not quite turf district.
I know there's no actual.
There's
turf
no turf.
yet.
There's no turf.
It's getting there.
But I like coming down here because every time I come down here, you guys have a bunch of new pictures up, and it really celebrates the success of your show and what you guys have been able to do here and what you guys have been able to build. So I like visiting this place because it's like a CFL podcast museum in a way, because you've got the history of your show is decorating the room, and that's something that is unique, I think, within the CFL podcast community. And so I like coming by. I like seeing you guys, and anytime I get a chance to come up here, because you guys just let me run wild and don't cut me off, which is something too.
You haven't heard the edit.
Well, I know. But you don't even stop me before the edit, so I'll appreciate that. And I do,
Plus
I like coming up here. Boozy cupcakes or something, and this unsponsored beverage which I'm having. And if you want to sponsor the beverages on the Eskimo Empire podcast, just reach out to @Freepalicious on Twitter,
perfect,
or the Eskimo Empire podcast on Twitter, because I'm sure they'll be able to make these sounds belong to you. So if you want to sponsor the show, just reach out to Andrew or Superfan Mike, 56 Parkies on Twitter.
That's me.
Look at this.
Or Commissioner Kales, you can reach out to her, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at this point we're supposed to move on to UCC. And do you know coming? UCC? Well, you know me.
Okay,
he does listen.
But you totally blew that.
Oh, sorry.
How about you do your own plugs, and I'll worry about the others.
Okay, well, if you want to become a beverage sponsor on the CFL Horseman podcast, find me at BB Can Ryan on Twitter, @CFL_Horseman. Of course, you can always go by the website, CFLHorseman.ca, for your forum needs. You can come by, check us out there, of course, and talk about all things CFL on the inner tubes. And, check out our podcast. It's on iTunes under Horseman Radio, or anywhere you can get your podcast from. Yes. You're going to be able to find Horsemen Radio, and that's Horsemen with an E-N at the end, because there's more than one of us. And if you don't put the E, you're not going to find us.
How do they pronounce that?
I guess so.
Horseman Radio.
Yeah, wonderful.
Check us out.
Thank you, Matt. That was awesome. Superfan, do you want to plug it again?
I got nothing.
Okay, that's fair. I get that. He already said all mine, so it's perfect. I'm going to say thank you again to Singor Mobley for also joining us, and follow him
Cowboys.
at Singor27. That's SAINGOR 27. There you go. It's wonderful cupcakes. And of course, thank you as always to our title sponsor, United Construction Company. You can check out all their website and build at unitedconstruction.ca. You down with UCC?
Yeah, you know me.
There we go. And make sure, of course, you find all of our social channels on eskempire.ca. We will be back in probably 2 weeks. So I guess the question is do we all want Singor up here as a coach with AJ?
Absolutely.
I like the fact that you stayed quiet. For Commissioner Kayla, podcaster Ryan, Superfan Mike, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you in 2 weeks.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.